Welcome to Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. You are going to hear the stories from the eclectic life of a guy who is a professional counselor, a family man, a SWAT team chaplain, outdoor enthusiast, a guy involved with ropes, 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, a chaotic Jedi, and who is a recipient of an honorary doctorate from the University of Adversity. Using these stories, we take the facts lead to concepts, and from the concepts we make a variety of life applications. Just a caveat about the facts. Most of the time we will tell you the facts just the way it happened, but once in a while we'll give you the facts the way other people remember how it happened, and that usually includes a tablespoon of embellishment. No harm is meant, just good, clean fun for educational purposes. Please subscribe and share this with your friends or your enemies. It might help them to be better people if they listen. As always, we thank you for keeping up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. Introducing the Bible degree with digital ministry. Paul used the marketplace and the synagogue to reach an expanded audience. We have access to the internet and social media. I once heard it said that when McDonald's introduced the drive-through window, they did not change the Big Mac, only how it was delivered. Faulkner University is now offering a new digital ministry track for their Bible degree. Faulkner's degree provides training in understanding and teaching the gospel, alongside training that will allow students to create quality digital content. Opportunities for evangelism in the digital spaces is unlimited, and this is innovative ministry education for our contemporary culture. One of the instructors is a 2-time Emmy-winning former ESPN designer. Members of the Church of Christ could be eligible for the full tuition Jack Zorn Scholarship in order to pursue this special area of study. For more information, contact admissions at faulkner.edu. That is admissions at faulkner.edu. Faulkner University is a digital partner with Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. TKM Incorporated in Moss, Tennessee is a construction company that specializes in erosion control, seeding, and soil, hydroseeding, hydromulch, minor excavation, and silt fence. They also provide traffic control and construction signs. Their business is keeping people safe, but their passion, their mission, is they wish that all men could be saved. TKM has adopted the nickname the King's Men because as they serve you, they also serve the King. If they could provide any of their services for you, please contact them at 931-243-3958. That is 931-243-3958. Or you can contact them on the net at tkminc2001 at twlakes.net. That is tkminc2001 at twlakes.net. TKM Incorporated is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. I once had the pleasure of reading one of my medical reports. I only read it once, and I'm making up the words, but it was in this vein or in this tone. Large, irregular, meandering, descending incision to the anterior abdominal region. The viscera elevated and abdominal cavity rinsed and cleansed. 18 inches of sigmoid colon removed, created stoma on the anterior abdominal wall. Patient tolerated well. Tolerated? I was unconscious. I didn't have a choice. Of all the things that they described that they did to me, the one word that got my attention was that I tolerated it. But I guess in medical terms, I did tolerate it. I did nothing about it. I didn't squirm. I didn't wiggle. I didn't make a fuss. I just did nothing. I lay there unconscious. The sign, it was posted prominently on the counter. The sign said, "Aggressive behavior will not be tolerated." That sounded a bit aggressive to me. It sounded more aggressive when I read it out loud. Aggressive behavior will not be tolerated. The people behind the counter didn't like the fact that I read it out loud. Maybe a sign aggressively forbidding aggression is meant to be read silently. You read it in your head, and it creates sort of a feng shui, je ne sais quoi, peaceful inner ambiance. But then I looked behind the counter at the people who weren't going to tolerate aggressive behavior, and it was funny because all I heard in my head was, "Stop, you're being aggressive." Maybe it wasn't as funny as I thought it was. Maybe it was just sad. Maybe it was just silly. Because no one I could see would be able to deal with any truly aggressive person. Maybe they didn't understand aggression. Maybe behind the counter they had some Karen spray, and maybe that's what they thought of as aggressive people being rude or impatient or demanding. Maybe they had some attitude cream that they give people to rub on themselves when they were in a snit. But truly aggressive behavior? You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. Rude doesn't equal aggressive. Mean doesn't equal abusive. At least not in the way I hear it used so many times. Be that as it may, how does one deal with, read that as not tolerate, how does one deal with aggressive behavior when one has decided to be intolerant of said aggression? Passively? You can be passive aggressive, and one can be passive while another person is aggressive, which begs the question, doesn't being passive while the other is being aggressive means you are tolerating the aggression? So what does the sign really mean? It means if you behave in an aggressive manner, you will not be dealt with passively. What the sign means is they are willing to call someone who has a master's degree in the use of aggression. Gun-free zones are protected by men with guns. I read a billboard in Knoxville, Tennessee, and it advertises body art, piercings, tattoos, studs, gauges, and the store advertising this body art, the name of the store was Born That Way. If the accessories, the studs, the piercings, the gaugings, the rings, the chains, or the ink was done aftermarket, you weren't born that way. If you didn't come from the factory that way, then you weren't born that way. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm not saying that one shouldn't have those things. I see some tattoos that I think are really cool. I've designed 2 tattoos for different people. My daughter keeps wanting me to have the inverted spider logo that I use tattooed on my arm. I'm not anti-tat. I'm not necessarily pro-tat. If you want to be a lifelong sponsor of the podcast, a lifelong annual sponsor, I'll get your logo tattooed on my deltoid and preach in sleeveless shirts. I don't have anything against them. But on face value, these messages don't match. We will be intolerant of aggression. And you were born that way, so add accessories. Now, there are some messages that are intended not to match. There are some things, and you have clear labels that one of these things is not like the other. Jackie and I were going on a trip. We're going to fly somewhere, and I was recovering from something. Now, please understand, I haven't flown since 2020 because of COVID. During that era, and spell it any way you want to spell it, ERA or ERROR, you came into the airport, you had to stand apart, you had to sit apart, you had to stand in line with enough space between you so you could get a quarterback sacked. And then after doing all that, after going through all those machinations, they jammed us into a flying metal tube like Pentecostal preachers at a herpetology convention. I realized I'm paying them to treat me this way, and I decided not to tolerate it anymore. And by the way, if you own an airline company, why don't you load the plane from back to front? not by zones, miles, and the fantasy of first class. When I'm getting on a plane with my little carry-on bag and I walk by the people in first class, I like to lean over someone and say, my end of the plane actually touches down first. Anyway, Jackie and I were at the airport. We step out of the car. We're in the parking deck, and I retched. I spewed. I vomited. I blew hot chunks all over the pavement. Jackie looked at me and said, "Are you all right?" To which I responded, I am now. She said, "What did you eat?" I said, "Nothing. I'm not supposed to eat with my medicine." She said, "What kind of medicine are you taking?" I said, "I just took the pills the doctor gave me and those stuff you told me to take." She said, "Let me see them." Well, it turns out one was an antibiotic and the other was a probiotic. Apparently, they were in my stomach fighting like two cats with their tails tied together, hanging over a clothesline. She looked at me and simply said, "Words have meanings. Prefixes are our friends." And then she laughed in that way she does when she's shaking her head at me. Maybe I'm focusing on the word wrong, or maybe I'm using the wrong word. I guess one can be intolerant to aggression, but your attitude toward it or your feeling about it doesn't really change anything. Maybe we're talking about tolerance. Maybe we're talking about tolerate. Maybe we're simply talking about how we react and how we respond. But the key is you get change when you change. It's not about expecting or waiting on others to change. I'm not going to let them treat me this way does not change the way they treat you. It simply changes the way one responds to how they are treating you. My friend, Dr. Kyle Butt, asked the question, if you have 5 pelicans on a pier and one decides to fly off, how many pelicans do you have? Well, in his answer, you still have 5. You see, just because the pelican decided to fly off doesn't mean he actually did it. Deciding to do something is not the same as doing. Until the big bill bird bounces, there are still 5 pelicans on the pier. Do or do not. I will not tolerate is a decision. But the crux of the matter is, what action will I take when I witness or am faced with or experience the intolerable? I know. I'll post a sign. I'll make a meme. I'll organize a public fit. I mean, a protest. Deciding not to tolerate something and doing something about it are not the same thing. Now, I'm not denying in any way that there is truth in the phrase, "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." That's a very powerful phrase. But good cannot simply be defined or understood only as passive inaction, lack of action, or being non-assertive. One does not fight fire with fire, but one does fight fire. You spray it, you drown it, you beat it out, you deprive it of oxygen, you prep it, you prep the area so that you have fire breaks and so that you remove the fuel. You're not fighting fire with fire, but you're fighting fire with the things providing an environment that fire can exist or thrive. Being intolerant of hatred, racism, sexism, abuse, neglect, poverty, exploitation of the innocent goes way beyond simply making a decision that you don't like it or find it offensive. It goes beyond a marketing campaign. If we truly will not tolerate evil, it goes beyond virtue signaling, fit pitching, whining, name calling, labeling, posting signs, or making posts. So what do? I don't tolerate may simply mean I won't attend the event. I won't listen to the speaker. I won't go to the rally. I won't be at the social gathering. I won't listen to liars as they lie or let abusers talk to me abusively. It may be that I have to distance myself from my family. My not attending, my not being present did not stop it from happening, but it did stop it from affecting me. Maybe if I'm at the speech, the rally, the service, the gathering, and that which I will not tolerate takes place, I can make a choice to leave. I don't have to make a scene. I just simply leave. Avoidance is not always a bad thing. It's not always pathological. In fact, in some cases, avoidance can be healthy. Whoever manages the distance manages the damage. But what if I'm in a place where I can't dictate the space? What if I'm in a situation that is unfair or uncomfortable and I simply can't leave? Well, there are some cases that demand a response, but it has to be a positive response. It can't be a punitive response, and it can't be a vindictive response. So how does one respond to that which is unpleasant, unfair, dishonest, disrespectful, or disgusting? Loving your enemy, blessing those who curse, praying for your persecutor, turning the opposite cheek, and going an extra mile. Those are positive, powerful actions. Loving my enemy is choosing. It's attitudinal. It's choosing to hope he experiences goodwill in his life and realizing that I'm not the one to settle his accounts. I don't have to plot his demise. I can just hope he gets better. Blessing the cursor simply means I don't live in a quid pro quo world. I don't have to give him what he gave me or expect that the world is even or balanced or fair. I just give him a blessing instead of returning his curse. Praying for my persecutor is recognizing that hurt people, and asking for something to happen good to him is different than hurting him, because if I hurt him, I will only add to his pain and it will not create relief in me. Turning the other cheek is about giving second chances, and going the extra mile is about making extra effort. Now, those responses do not equal tolerance. They do not equal endorsement. They do not equal permission, and they do not imply forgiveness. They are intentional, counterintuitive responses to the repugnant. There is no implied guarantee that they will affect the behavior or the behavior, and that's a real word, behavior. The effect that those things have are on me. When I change my responses to the behavior, I change the power of the behavior, and I change the power of the behavior. There's that word again. I didn't cause it. I will not cure it. How do I cope with it? Those responses, blessings, prayers, other cheeks, and extra miles, are not designed to change toxic behavior to beneficial or transform mean people into nice people. Those strategies only have the power to change the power that the other person or the other behavior has over me. It does not change the behavior. It only changes my response to the behavior. I choose, and by choosing, I am empowered. I am saying I will not tolerate the control that your aggression, manipulation, accusation, temper, addiction, hatred, or judgment has over me. That means no matter what others say or do, I choose not to act, react, overreact based on words, values, thoughts, and deeds of others. I guess the fancy term for that is having an internal locus of control. My not tolerating does not eliminate the behavior. It does not change the behavior. But by not tolerating, by not letting it have control over me, is almost the same as eliminating it. If I limit the power it or they have in my life, it is the same as if it didn't happen or they aren't there. The things other people do, say, believe, or the way they behave should not control us. If we let those things dictate how we feel, think, or act, or live, then that is intolerable. Using the tool of shortwave radio, World Christian Broadcasting literally covers the world every day with the gospel. They use 2 large curtain antennas. One is located in Anchor Point, Alaska, and the other in Madagascar. They send out messages that are recorded at their international home in Franklin, Tennessee. They make available 40 hours of broadcast every day. The broadcasts are made in English, Chinese, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, Korean, English for Africa, and Arabic. They would love for your group to visit them. You can bring your ladies group, your youth group, or your men's group. Just give them a call at 615-371-8707, 615-371-8707, or you can go to worldchristian.org, find the Donate Here button, and make a financial contribution to support this work that literally covers the world every day with the gospel. World Christian Broadcasting, in cooperation with Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. The mission of Heritage Christian University is simple. They aim to advance the churches of Christ by equipping servants through undergraduate and graduate programs. Heritage Christian University produces effective communicators of the gospel, focusing on evangelism and a commitment to Scripture. Heritage Christian University is accredited by the Association for Biblical Higher Education and offers the following degrees: Associate of Arts in Biblical Studies, Bachelor of Arts in Biblical Studies, Master of Arts, Master of Ministry, and Master of Divinity. Since 1968, Heritage Christian University, formerly International Bible College, has offered affordable degrees in biblical studies, allowing graduates to thrive in their ministries without the burden of loan debt after graduation. For more information about Heritage Christian University, visit www.hcu.edu. That's 3 W's and a dot, hcu.edu. Heritage Christian University is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure.